Okay, I'm here with Nick Mayfield. Well, would you care to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name's Nick Mayfield. I currently work at Wild Leap here in LaGrange, and been there since day one. We've been around for, about 2 years now. So,
Okay.
So yeah.
I didn't realize you started there.
I did. We opened our doors in September of 2017, and I started in probably early August, helping them get prepared along with a handful of others and getting things ready for that grand opening, which was, man, that was a show.
How did you come upon the job?
So I was a home brewer for
Okay.
about 5 or 6 years, just home brewing on my back porch at home, and I had heard word that there was a brewery coming to town, and at first living in LaGrange my whole life, I was thinking, really, this is going to be interesting. Let's see what this is all about. So a friend of mine said, they're hiring, for bartender positions. You should just go by and see if you can get a job serving some beer. It's like, yeah, that'd be cool. So I went by, found the information, applied for a job, and ended up coming on with them in the beginning and just kind of making friends with everyone, learning my way around the place, and been there ever since, just getting my hands dirty in all kinds of different things. So,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, before that, can you tell me about what you did before that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, trying to think of year-wise. Probably around 2012 to 2015, 16. Let's see. I got to get my years right. So I used to work at 505 Eats. So I was really into the culinary arts. So to say, I love to cook. And by culinary arts, I mean me being at home, bored, trying to fix something up, and just trying to get creative with it in my free time. And my mother is an excellent cook, so I would learn what I could from her. So I met Joyce Sato, just strictly from having gone to, if nobody's familiar with that area, that is actually right next to LaGrange College. It's inside of a gas station. You've been there. So I grew up right around the corner. So one day I go in and I start talking about my love for cooking, and Joyce says, well, put your money where your mouth is. Come cook with me. And I said, all right. So we started doing that together and selling sandwiches out of the side of the gas station. And after a year of, doing everything, putting in the work and seeing if we actually had a customer base, we finally opened the restaurant, and it was absolutely fantastic. And everything, she still continues up to this day to do really well with 505. So I was super happy to be a part of that for a while. And then after that, I moved on to work for Chattahoochee River Keeper, which is a nonprofit organization that's based in Atlanta, but they have an outreach office here in LaGrange that kind of, the name kind of says what it is. It's an organization that works to protect the river and do water monitoring and all the necessary things that anybody can do to try to help the Chattahoochee and its reputation, for what it is. And we also have a floating classroom. I'm not sure if you know
Floating
about
classroom.
So we have again, I'm not sure on the footage. It's big. It's about 25, 30 foot long pontoon boat that we acquired just a few years ago. And what we do is we take students out from different schools, any level, all the way from kindergarten up to college level, and we do programs, different programs teaching about the watershed, teaching about river conservation, water conservation, things like that. And that program goes on about 6 to 8 months out of the year. They're taking kids out every Monday through Friday from all different cities and counties. And I was a floating classroom instructor with my time at River Keeper. A very good friend of mine who's the outreach manager there, Henry Jacobs, I worked with, and Laura Breifogel. She was great. She's the head of the program. And Had a fantastic time just teaching out there on the floating classroom. It was really, I'd always wanted a job where I could get out, be in the elements, and I really like teaching too. So being out there on the river and being able to run my mouth for a while about river conservation, water conservation was great, and it was a good change of pace from being in a kitchen to being outdoors, and then I did that, and then I taught music at the same time, so I was kind of doing dual teaching guitar, teaching piano, and then that was about the time that the Wild Leap opportunity popped up, and I was still continuing to work for River Keeper at the time, kind of making both work, and then as things picked up at Wild Leap, I went on to work with them full time.
Okay. And you're also a musician too, right?
Yes. Music is also a very, very big, important part of my life. I started playing music when I was very young. I was never a sports guy.
Okay.
So my parents were super supportive of all the different instruments that I would beg them for at the music store. We used to have a music store in LaGrange, where the marketplace on the square is now.
Okay.
It was called Music Depot. And I took lessons there for years and absolutely just loved, getting my hands on anything I could get my hands on and learning how to play. So I started playing at a young age and kind of went through different instruments as I got older. I always played guitar, but I got into school and started playing trumpet in school and started getting into piano in my teens. And then as of recent, within the last, I'd say it's been about a year now, I've felt like I found the instrument I've always been waiting for, is the mandolin. I absolutely love the mandolin, so I've been playing that religiously for about a year now. Mandolin,
like a violin?
So it's very, mandolin is pretty similar to a violin, except it's not a bowed instrument. So instead of using a bow, it's the same tuning, roughly the same size, but you turn it on its side and you pluck it with a pick. So
like a small guitar?
Yeah, kind of like a small guitar. A lot of people will look at it and think, oh, is that a ukulele? Because it looks so similar. But a mandolin actually has 8 strings that act like 4 strings. So you have 8 strings, but 2 strings, each 2 sets are tuned to the same note. So you have G, D, A, E. But the G is 2 strings, the D is 2 strings, the A. So you would play it as if it were 4 strings. Okay. But it's a very prominent instrument in bluegrass music, which I absolutely love. But not only that, but it dates back hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's one of the oldest string instruments, the mandolin. So, back in the day, it looked a little different, kind of like a lute, Okay. It's kind of similar to what the mandolin that we know now with the scroll, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the bluegrass style mandolin. That was actually patented and done by Gibson in the early 1900s, 1920s. So, but yeah, regardless, I feel like that instrument I just love it. It just speaks to me. So I've been playing that quite a bit for the last year now, and I play in a band here in town with a few friends of mine. I had mentioned Henry Jacobs earlier from Chattahoochee River Keeper. He plays drums. Callie Hammond, she's well known here in town. She's a violin player, classically trained. Okay. But she plays fiddle now. So she's always played fiddle, but I'd say she's really at the point now where she is beyond an amazing fiddler. She the only difference, so to say, between a fiddle and a violin is specifically just the way you play it. It's the same instrument, but so yeah, she plays fiddle for us, and then Dylan Norgard is a good friend of mine. He plays bass for us, and we've been playing gigs together in and around LaGrange for, I'd say, about 3 to maybe even 4 years now. We just actually played Rock Weave, which was a big deal for us. We absolutely loved the time we had there. It was great.
Do you have any other shows lined up?
So upcoming, we are actually taking a bit of a hiatus
Okay.
right now. Callie has just recently come into a new position as the music director at the First Presbyterian Church
Oh,
here in
okay.
LaGrange. So she's got her hands full, along with probably 50 plus students, and we've all just kind of got a busy season. So we're just kind of taking it easy, taking a breather. We were playing maybe a gig every 1 to 2 gigs every week there for a while. So
Oh, wow. That's quite hefty.
yeah. So we're just kind of taking it easy and enjoying our holiday season, but
Okay.
yeah, we're always still open to play and make music.
Fair enough. All right, I'd say we covered the formal title and what you do in LaGrange.
Mhm.
So what are you most known for in and around LaGrange? So like, what do people know you for most in and around LaGrange?
I would say before Wild Leap, it was all music. People knew I really expressed my love and my joy for music growing up. I never hid it. It was always something that people knew that Nick really loves music. So I was always, the one that people would call on if, we need somebody to play at this, or somebody to do, or maybe we need a wedding done. People would call on me, in my growing up in my friend group, and so I think that most people knew me for a long time to be the music dude, the music guy. Oh, Nick can do that. Nick can play that. He can blah blah blah. They'd hold me up too high, like, okay, easy guys. But, so music was probably what most people would know me for. Up until I started working for Wild Leap, I cannot tell you how many people I've met and come to know just through working there. People who live in our community, people who are outside of our community.
Oh, okay.
It's a really amazing place to have that traffic of outgoing and ingoing people to just meet and talk and, get to know all kinds of folks.
So you said you were born and raised in LaGrange. So that's what first brought you to LaGrange. So.
I was actually not born in LaGrange.
Oh, all right.
I was born in Bucharest, Romania, and then
Really?
yeah.
There's got to be a story to this.
There is. So basically, like I say, so I was born in 1991, and that was shortly after the time that the country of Romania rebelled against its government. Their rebellion happened in 1989. They had a very dictator. It was a dictator of a leader named Ceausescu. Some people pronounce it differently. He had been in power since after World War II, but it had grown more and more into just a communist nightmare. And
Okay.
it was no one. It was kind of like reminds me of the Willy Wonka movie. Nobody goes in, nobody goes out. I mean, it was no one could leave, no one could go. But you saw that going on in a lot of other countries too at the time. So because shortly after 1989, what we have Berlin and Russia, all the different rebellions. So since no one was allowed in Romania, once the rebellion happened, it was the first time that reporters had ever gone in and really seen how horrible things were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was an absolute excess of children, homeless children, all just. I mean, the numbers were unreal. During the, before the government was overthrown, things like birth control were strictly forbidden,
Okay.
and anything like that. So what you had was very high numbers of, and also, now I'm not 100% correct on when this was, but sometime during the 1900s there was also a rule. I don't know if you want to call it a rule, but you had to have a certain amount of children. You were required to.
Okay.
So that also ended up in a surplus of children. So when these reporters go in and they see how terrible the condition is, it makes it to the news, and my parents were living in Manchester, Georgia, which isn't far from LaGrange at all. It's about 40 miles from here.
Okay.
And they're from Georgia. My mom's from Atlanta. My dad's from Manchester. And they weren't able to have children of their own, and they saw that on TV, just the pictures of how awful the conditions were. And my parents weren't really, it's funny because they're such down-to-earth people. They're not just like, oh, honey, let's go save a baby. Like, that's not, that's totally not. They saw it as an opportunity to do something, really, that might beneficial, that might help another life. And they really wanted children, so adoption was where they were going to go with it. So they went to Romania in 1990 and did a preliminary visit, and then I came back shortly after, and they were actually in Romania. They were on a 3-month stay at the time when I was born.
Okay.
And they met good friends there, became friends, met more friends, and through the right people, they said, we know a woman that is about to have a baby. She's probably 1 week out, and unfortunately, she just can't, that the money's not there, just everything that was going on at the time, obviously. So, that's a potential adoption for you guys. And here I am. So we lived in Manchester up until I was about 6, and then we moved to LaGrange just in time for me to start kindergarten at Hollis Hand Elementary School. So.
Okay.
So yeah,
it is quite a story.
Yeah, it's when people ask, they say, are you from LaGrange? Sometimes I just say, yeah, I'm from LaGrange, unless they specifically say, were you born and raised? Because then I'll say, I know if I say, well, I'm actually born in Romania, that's like dropping a bomb. They're like, oh, whoa. All right, now I gotta know what's with this. So I never mind telling the story. I consider myself absolutely. I'm so happy to be here in this town with everybody, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So
awesome.
Yeah.
What's your favorite story about living in LaGrange?
My favorite story about living in LaGrange. So I'd have to say that story is a pretty early one for me. It was when I was about 6 years old.
Okay.
And I had just started at Hollis Hand Elementary and kindergarten. My teacher was Mrs. Moore. And I had a lot of, I don't know, I had some weird little phobias. One of my phobias was the fire alarm. Now, I was terrified of it, which, as I look back now, starts to make more sense. Okay, you have this very loud sound that means something bad is happening and you need to get out. So okay. now as I'm like, I think that was pretty valid to be afraid. But anyway, I had a fear of the fire alarm, and there's this wonderful, wonderful woman. She still lives here in LaGrange. She was the guidance counselor at LaGrange, or at Hollis Hand Elementary at the time. Her name is Miss Betty Drinkard. And when I expressed that fear of how much I did not like the fire alarm, she took notice, and she said, why don't you come to my office? And I said, all right. So we talked, and she comforted me, and she said, how would you like to be my little fire marshal? And I was like, what does that mean? And she said, every time that we're going to have a fire drill, I'm going to come get you, and we'll stand at the front, and we'll make sure that everyone gets out of the building safe, and we'll be the fire marshals. And she said, she even made me this little button that said, fire marshal on it. And I think it was from that moment that I absolutely knew, I don't know if everybody gets this, but this is pretty awesome, that she's taken such good, but I mean, it's such a good representation of what I feel the majority of people are like in this town. I mean, there I was, a stranger, and of course it's her job to be the guidance counselor, but it's just my favorite story because it always brings me back to, what LaGrange is really about, which I've never, thought otherwise. And that was just such a cool moment. So I ended up being fire marshal for about a year or so. So yeah, that was a really cool time. It was a really good moment, and she's just an amazing woman. She really is.
So would you also call that your highest point while living in LaGrange?
Highest point of living in LaGrange. Let's see. You know what? I would definitely say that my highest point living in LaGrange. Now, if I had to, I guess I can give two answers. If I had to bring it down to a single moment, I think it would be the moment that. So I'll give a little background first. USA Today contacted Wild Leap, and they said, "We've got you guys in the running for the top 20 best new breweries that have opened up in the United States." And we said, "Wow, that's amazing." We could not believe that we were nominated. Just to be nominated,
yeah,
it was amazing. So we, okay. So let me say. Going from there, the next step in the competition was for the public to take those top 20 that USA Today had chosen, and for them to decide who the number 1, number 2, and so on, all the way ranking them 1 to 20. And we were already humbled enough, but we definitely still had that in the back of our heads. That wouldn't it be awesome if we won? Wouldn't that be cool? So we sat in the tap room on the day of the announcement, and it was very cool because the USA Today website had a countdown, and it had the numbers up there, and as soon as it got to 0, it displayed the list, and we had already made a party of it and decided that this party it's about being in this top 20. It's whether we make it or not, it's just the coolest thing. And sure enough, that countdown hits, and Wild Leap's at number 1. And we could not, it was the most humbling, it's hard to put into words, because it was just everything that we had put our heart and soul into was being recognized. And that was just the biggest part of it for us, was to know that not only do people know our beer's there, but they really like it, and it's something that we work really, really hard on. So, of course, that's something that you would want. But I would have to say, without a doubt, that was probably one of the biggest
high points.
Yeah, biggest high points. And then also, that being a specific moment, I would say just. Altogether being at Wild Leap and being with my band and performing at Rockweave, and that's also just the whole year. It's just been an amazing highlight. I would say that's definitely the biggest thing for me so far.
Awesome. Yeah, this entire year, I could say, looking from the outside in, has been kind of one after another for you.
Yeah, it just keeps continuing to grow and grow and grow, and our team is relentless. We want to make the best beer, and we want people to enjoy it. We want our marketing to be fun. We want our events to be fun. For me, I knew about Rockweave obviously quite a bit before it was even announced, because Wild Leap had a big partnership in it. But even having been on the inside loop of it, when I saw it, it was just out of this world. It looked like we had brought something like Music Midtown, but put it right in the middle of LaGrange. It was mind-blowing to me. And I just thought the same thing that you had just said to myself, it's just one thing after another. It's just, doing really great. And I definitely have no problem saying it is absolutely because of the hardworking people there, but the heart and soul that they put into it is just like nothing I've ever seen. I've never seen people care about something so much. It's very, very cool. And it's beer.
Yeah.
Like, it's beer. Everyone has fun with beer, and everyone enjoys, talking about it and drinking it. And I would have never in a million years thought that would be how I could make my living. People would always say, well, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I'm thinking, yeah, but how realistic is that? And I mean, you can make it happen, because
Well, at the end of the day, it's just barley, hops, and water.
it is. And that's another good kind of tangent on that is, how many breweries are popping up. You being a craft beer aficionado, man, I mean, we've
Seriously.
got 30 new breweries that are going to open up within the next 5 years here in Georgia. I mean, that is, oversaturation is a little bit of an understatement.
And Georgia's behind the curve.
Right. It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible how fast it's growing. So I also, from working at Wild Leap for this long and being there through the steps, can say I would never do it. It's one of the hardest, just most challenging businesses, but we have people who are built for it, and then they love it. They live, eat, and breathe it, and it's just cool that at the end of the day, it's beer.
All right. What is your lowest point of living in LaGrange?
Oh, lowest point. I think that for me, my lowest point was probably similar to a lot of other people's. How do I word this? I think that once you're leaving high school and trying to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life in a very short amount of time, it can be very, shocking, and you might change your mind 50 times about what you want to do, and it's very hard to know which direction you want to go in. And, the old, do you want to leave your hometown or stay in your hometown? That whole debate too. Yeah. So I'd say that my hardest time here was probably finding what was right for me. Just knowing if I was somebody who wanted to travel, or did I want to move away, or did I want to stay here and find something that was suitable, or, I think just that general unknowing, not knowing what the future was, or not knowing, especially when there's so much pressure at that time you gotta have it figured out. So I think for me, that was a time where I was, you could say, definitely lost. Like, what am I gonna do? So I think it's probably one of the, if you want to call, lower points.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I had something similar. It came later for me, but I had something similar. That's when I moved to Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
That's how I got here. I came from upstate New York.
Oh, wow.
Binghamton, New York.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I moved from Binghamton, New York. I was actually a machinist before this.
Okay.
I moved from upstate New York, and I was a machinist in Binghamton, and I moved to Atlanta to go to graduate school to become a theologian.
Oh, that's very awesome. So where did you go to school there?
Emory.
Oh, wow.
Canada School of Theology.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah. Didn't work out.
Yeah, I guess that's one of those times that, I mean, you're never going to know unless you try, right?
Exactly. You got to roll the dice.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Can you name a time where someone in LaGrange helped you out of a bind?
Ooh, help me out of a bind. Let's see. I would say that there was a time, this is obviously, it's not like a big exciting story, but there was a time that I was trying to remember exactly which town I was in. It was around the Apalachicola area. So
Apalachicola?
Yeah, right at the it's right where the Chattahoochee River, or at that point the Apalachicola River, meets the Gulf of Mexico. So I'm trying to think of just south of Tallahassee.
Okay.
So I was there. I was with some friends, and we were at this establishment where it was very, very full that night. And it didn't look like we were going to have any luck getting in to see a bluegrass group that we had come to see.
Okay.
And lo and behold, we meet this person outside, and they start talking to us. And, oh, yeah, I know LaGrange. And we're like, really? How do you know LaGrange? And they said, well, we've stopped up there on the way through the interstate. And we're like, oh, cool. Well, yeah, that's very cool. And then he starts walking back. He's like, oh, do you guys want to get in? Like, yeah. So, he's like, he takes us in, and he says, oh, these are my buddies from LaGrange. Like, all right, good to go. LaGrange came in handy. No, I'm sure there's plenty of other examples of a better time when LaGrange came in, but that's just,
that's a good story.
That was a little, it's always weird how you meet people, I was at another one, I was at Atlanta United game, and how many people, what do we have, 60,000 plus?
Yeah.
And I'm standing in line, and I'm talking about LaGrange, and the guy behind me is like, oh yeah, it's where my brother lives. I'm just like, wow, 30,000 people in this town, but we spread out far.
All right, so what's your favorite spot in LaGrange? Can't say Wild Leap.
I think my favorite spot in LaGrange is the lake. It can be anywhere at the lake. I think just for me, I love being near water. I love big open spaces. I really like, I like to meditate, do a little yoga. So, a nice drive out to a lake spot, whether it's at a friend's spot or whether it's at a public spot. I'll usually park and walk a little ways and just get a nice view, and 99.9% of the time bring my instrument and sit there and play. And I just think that it's so, I don't know, not many people realize how beautiful that lake can be, especially at sunset. I mean, just how nice it is to have, especially, I guess I'm hinting more at like a lot of the youth. They go out there and, I don't know, there's just something about it that you get out and you're like, wow, this is just, you forget how many towns don't have a nice body of water that they can just go out to and enjoy. So for me, being on the bank of the lake and looking out, and that's my spot.
All right. So what's your go-to order at your favorite LaGrange restaurant or bar? You can say Wild Leap. For the record, I said mine was the Bomb Pop Truck Chaser at Wild Leap for my favorite order, my go-to order in my favorite restaurant or bar.
Well, I'm really glad that you like that Bomb Pop. Yeah, I'm super happy with the Bomb Pop, and we're drinking the new strawberry eclair Truck Chaser now, which is also very, very tasty. But
for the record, you're not here as a representative of Wild Leap. Despite that placement and yeah.
But shameless plug. No, I mean we have plenty of advertisement. But I'd say my favorite spot. Man, that's really hard to say because I feel like if anyone hears, they're gonna say, "How did you not choose?" So, somewhere that I'm not going to say 505, but that is one of my answers because obviously, but that's a biased answer. I really, really do. I feel like, have you heard or do you know of the Doc Spears? How do I describe this? It's the Doc Spears Gathering Place. This is, I think, the official name. So if you go into the Hillside neighborhood, and you have Beacon on your left there. Mm-hmm. If you take a right and you go up, I can't think of what the Jefferson Street it might be.
I've never explored the Hillside neighborhood beyond Beacon.
Okay, so you can actually see it. It's right across the street from the cart barn. Mm-hmm. So it is this. It's a drugstore that was built probably on the first half of the 1900s. I mean, and it was gutted. The ceiling was torn out, and it was brick, of course. So all this brick structure is still there. But what they've allowed is all this greenery and vegetation to just take over. So you just have this beautiful kind of broken down brick structure that is just interlaced with vines and trees. And yeah, a lot of people give me that reaction. They're like, where is this? So yeah, it's called the Doc Spears Gathering Place, and it is just the coolest little spot to hang out and kind of do the same thing as I mentioned earlier, just kind of, hang out. Not only that, but my friend Henry, that I've mentioned 3 times now, has done art projects there with wall pasting, and we've had music events there. We've had, that's also, for anyone that's been to the Hillside Music and Arts Festival,
okay,
you've probably seen it. It's at the very end of the kind of, the happening right there off to your left. But yeah, that spot is absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I would say that one for sure.
What is your favorite thing about living in around Greater LaGrange? Well, you live in LaGrange, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, okay. What's your favorite thing about living in LaGrange?
I think the accessibility. I live in the LaGrange College area, so for me, it's very short walk to anything that, if I need something from the store, I can walk. If I need to go to work, I can walk. I can, I think all those things, just the fact that you wouldn't think that's kind of more of a city mentality. You wouldn't think, in a small little town that you could just kind of walk to places. But I really, really like that about LaGrange. And also just, recently there's just so much to do nowadays with the brewery, obviously. And we have these new restaurants and new things happening everywhere. So I think that just the fact that I feel right there in the middle of it all is kind of the meat of it all.
So what's the hidden gem in LaGrange that no one else knows about?
Ooh. Well, if I say that, I'm going to give it away and everybody's going to know. Hidden gem in LaGrange. This might be kind of a lame answer, but for people who are new to this town or maybe haven't been here for that long, I think the history behind Troup County and LaGrange is absolutely fascinating. I love I'm a history buff anyway, but just to learn the things that, for example, if you're sitting at Marisol here on Main Street and you're staring out the window, I bet most people didn't know that JFK paraded down that street, and I bet most people, just the list goes on and on of all just the awesome. So I would say that like a visit to the Legacy Museum and, the Historical Society that we have here in LaGrange, I mean, there are things and hidden gems that you would have never have guessed. So I think that instead of one specific hidden gem, it's just the fact that LaGrange is so full of just the coolest stories of all types, that just, it's full. I just encourage people to go looking for them. There's so many cool things that you can find in this town that you might have otherwise never even known.
Awesome. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food, man, that is pretty hard to say, but I think if I had to choose just a few things, my favorite food would be, I don't want to say bacon. I love bacon. I'm gonna anger some animal activists. No, honestly, I think that growing up, funny enough, my mom would always say, okay, Nicholas, what do you want on your birthday? Because you can have anything you want on your birthday. And my answer was always sloppy joes.
Really?
And that's got to be the weirdest. My parents thought it was so strange. But I don't know what it was about sloppy joes. that I loved. I just loved tomato sauce and ground beef. Out of all the things like this culinary, so I think in short, just the fun stuff.
All right. So when is your birthday?
My birthday is April 10th. April 10th.
All right. So April 10th. All right.
Sloppy Joe's?
Yep.
That sounds great. Yeah.
All right. What's your best MacGyver moment? Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Best MacGyver moment. I guess that my favorite MacGyver moment. I think my favorite MacGyver moment was probably at Wild Leap, of course, because that was when I started, working in an industry where when things go wrong, you have to come up with solutions really, really fast. So I was cleaning a tank one day just with various chemicals and had all the right protection on, but of course sometimes things splash and things happen. So I had a hose that was under pressure, and one of the clamps that was holding it on decided that it was at the end of its life, and kind of busted open on me. So I was kind of stuck there in that, because I can't go anywhere because I got the hose in one hand, but I can't go get anything to fix the problem. So there was a brick. Out of all the random things, there was a brick next to the brick wall, of course, and I pulled that brick across, shoved it under the hose for support, and then got it clamped back on, and felt pretty good about it afterwards. I avoided making too much of a mess and hurting myself. So MacGyvering moments are, they're often in the brewery.
I can imagine. All right, last question. Is there anything I should have asked you but didn't?
I'll say that I kind of like what you and I were saying right before the podcast. I've always felt like LaGrange has been in desperate need of some, just some media outlets of different types. A podcast is something that I've never, to my knowledge, I'm sorry if someone has done one, but to my knowledge, has never been done, as far as a solely LaGrange-based community podcast. And I think it's absolutely necessary and just flat out awesome for people to get to know the people that they're living in their community with, but not only that, but to learn some stuff about their city that they might otherwise not have known. And I would just say, I think you asked all the right things, and I seriously love what this is, and I really, really, really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, well, thank you. All right, well, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're shaking hands now. All right, bye.